So we're going to hit you with a hard-hitting subject. We're trying to get to the bottom of something. Our listeners have asked us this before, but you look at a snowboard, it's a seemingly simple product, yet they are pretty expensive. And we want to get to the bottom of why a snowboard is so expensive, and if you have any answers.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think what I could say is that I came from filming, so I was with you and Meyer and that side of it a lot, and then moved into marketing. And when I made that switch, it kind of changed my perspective on snowboarding. Right? We used to just get the gear, we'd go out, we'd shoot the gear, ride the gear, and I don't know about you guys, but for me, I didn't really think much of on that. But now that I've kind of come to this side of things, like I've really seen more of what goes into it. You said snowboard simple products, and in some ways, certain models, have kind of limited construction and limited in amount of ingredients. But I think really, like if you want like an answer here, you would probably start with kind of the first kind of bucket and why they cost what they cost is just the amount of materials that go into a snowboard. You have wood cores, you have base material, you have fiberglass, you have inserts, you have metal edges, and that's just a quick short list of some of the stuff that's in even more of the more of the basic or like entry point models. Of course, you can kind of scale up from there. But, each material, it's like a list, so we get those from raw material providers, and one has its own cost in there. And then on top of that, it's quite a bit of work that goes into making them. And when we talk about the people that are doing kind of the brand planning, the graphic design, then passing off the construction details and the graphics to the crew at the mothership or whatever factory they're built at for other brands, and there's a lot of factory floor employees too. So there's labor costs as well as part of it, and ultimately there's shipping costs as well to get these things out to people and out to shops. And with all those things considered, I actually think snowboarding did a pretty good job in the last 20, 25 years with kind of staying true to certain price points on boards. For CAP, for example, I think it was like $379 was originally like the Stairmaster pricing, and now our board that's equivalent to that is $429. That's over 20 to 25 years of the brand, and snowboarding is not immune to inflation either. So I think there is kind of a bright spot in that aspect that if you compare it to things on increase of costs, we battle with that too. The materials that go, the labor that go into it, and et cetera, shipping, it's all risen in price. So
if you could eat a snowboard, they would now cost $2,000.
If you could eat one?
Yeah. Compared to the inflation of
You're talking about like if you buy a freaking loaf of bread or whatever, yeah. So I think it's
I know it sounds cheesy, but I guess the comparison is a little bit similar in that like there's a list of ingredients for each different model.
I think also too, one thing Silk and I just had the pleasure of doing is we went down to Austria. We went to the CAPiTA mothership, and I honestly went into that with like a little bit of, all right, this is going to be like a school field trip. We're going to go to this tour. We're going to see this factory. It's going to be kind of boring. And I was actually, as a person who's ridden snowboards my whole life, got an entirely new appreciation of what goes into making a snowboard. And every step of the way, the entire process, each one of the machines to like print the graphic is like a freaking million euros or whatever. And all of the machinery is like millions and millions of dollars to, put everything together. And then all of the hands that touch the board, it goes from one guy to another guy to another guy to another guy to another guy. And everything is quality controlled. And so, it really does make sense when you go to a snowboard factory and you see how intense the process is from milling the wood core all the way along the entire assembly line for the board. Silk, what do you think? You were there.
Yeah, I mean, the whole process is insanely detailed. It's ridiculous. You would never know. As a casual snowboarder myself, you would have no fucking idea. So watch the tour video when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, was that kind of like the biggest takeaway or surprise for you guys? Just kind of, I don't know, the steps involved and the amount of like materials involved and et cetera.
Yeah. The just sheer, like, this is actually what went through my head. Full transparency when I went there. Like, this happens to be sometimes. I look at a skyscraper and I'm like, God damn, it's incredible what people can build when they like come together. Like, we were able to build a goddamn skyscraper. Like, how, think some guy thought of that and like made a plan, and then a bunch of people built the thing. And I'm just like, I'm in awe of that. And I had that same feeling when I went to a snowboard factory. I'm like, the amount of things that had to come together correctly in order for this factory to have this building, and then in this building have all of these $1 million of machines that are all powered by extremely smart engineers that are ridiculously brilliant. It made me go from an entitled snowboarder that have gotten these snowboards in the mail my whole life and then like ridden them downstairs and be like, I'll get a fucking new one, like, to being like, wow, this is a beautiful piece of art.
Yeah. I think to some degree too, Chris, there's a little bit of a kind of, I don't know, a takeaway from that to also a change in cost in snowboards, like over the years too. Cause the other thing that's kind of part of it, I think, is, just the evolution of like snowboarding now that it's older, so many, many years ago. And it's very like kind of, basic like product. People are trying to figure out how to make snowboards. And then, for example, like in the beginning of CAPiTA, you go back 25 years ago, it's super like freestyle oriented, for like a really like kind of young freestyle customer. But, I don't know, Meyer, you got kids, I got now, Chris, you got a new one. Congrats. And it's like, people are getting older and they still love snowboarding. And there's kind of like an expectation for, an evolution of products and better products and higher performing products, lighter weight products. And that's not all snowboarding is. There's so many different aspects of realms of snowboarding, but that's just to say that there's been like an evolution of, different types of snowboards, an expansion of different types of snowboards that didn't exist 20 to 25 years ago. And along with that, kind of like an opening of different, pricing. So a wider range of it too.
Well, I think that would so maybe here's a theory. Riders, professional snowboarders who film video parts, maybe not quite contest people, they're probably pretty taken care of. But the video part snowboarder salary has come down, travel budget has come down, all this. Maybe that's all in the name of keeping the snowboard relatively affordable.
Let's juice up those prices.
What I'm saying is it's all the same. It's all the same pot, right? So if they're paying the snowboarders more, then maybe that snowboard's more expensive, and then maybe they sell less of them, and maybe there's less money to pay said snowboarder.
These are pretty technical.
Maybe you're jumping on a grenade to keep that cost down.
So you're an advocate of a $3,000 snowboard then?
No, not at all. But
okay,
but I am an advocate of a travel budget. But
yeah, and I think to that, because like early 2000s snowboarding was booming. Like
people were getting paid.
It was insane how many snowboards are being sold.
There was like, we were closer to selling 1 million snowboards a year. Now we're in, like, as an entire industry, closer to 700, right? Yeah. Like, so there used to be 300,000 more snowboards in the market as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of that would go back to like people getting paid too. I wonder like how it would reflect, kind of the first point, which is like the rise in costs over the years too, Yeah.
Well, that bottom line just, you end up in the red, and those prices of those boards are going to have to go up. But the fact that they haven't gone up, like you're saying, in 25 years, that's not that much of an increase in the price of a board.
Jason,
maybe that's a side effect.
What are you going to ask, Dangler?
Sorry, Meyer. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm on FaceTime audio here, so it's all.
I can tell you're popping in and out.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, I was going to ask Jason just his perspective on it. He's on the product side too, so.
Yeah, just as far as I mean, I was before the episode, I was going through some stuff to get some numbers on, like, you know, for example, the Alchemist, which is our highest selling snowboard. It has 64 individual parts that go into one snowboard, which is pretty insane, you know, if you think about that. And one thing I don't think people really realize is every single snowboard is put together by hand. Like there's no automation. There's not a robot that can just put your snowboard together, put all the glue in the right spots, and just put it into a little oven and it goes. Every single part is laid in by hand by skilled workers. And there's probably 40 to 50 steps in the process of preparing each part to get to the point of where you then put it together. And then, yeah, like Chris said, you know, like all the machinery is insanely expensive. You know, if you want to have a stone ground base on your snowboard, those machines cost $2 million. And so part of that, paying for those huge machines, has to reflect back into the product. So if we add a stone ground base, we have to raise the price a little bit. So it's, you know, we obviously want to give the best price to the customer, but still you have to make money at the end of the day. But it's crazy how much of it is done by hand and is not automated. So that's, it's crazy.
Another sidebar too with visiting this factory is that in Austria, where these snowboards are built, is in the same area where a lot of skis have been built over the years for like generations. So a lot of the people that are building these boards that's kind of like their trade of their generation, of their, like, generationally, their family trade is building skis or building snowboards, and they view it not as like a factory worker, but as like that's their trade.
Skilled profession.
Their skilled profession. And they are, look, I built the board and it took me, I was a disaster. They could have built 15 snowboards in the time it took me to build one.
Dude,
you're working your way up the apprenticeship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you take...
Oh, and one thing I just want to add, just with, you know, like brands that have been around a long time, CAPiTA's, like all these companies that have been around for 25 plus years. Like when you're buying one of their products, you're buying the investment in the knowledge that they've figured out, right? They've taken so many years to know how to make a good quality product. It's like if you have an electrician who's been doing it for 30 years come to your house and it takes them 15 minutes to fix your light, you didn't see the 10,000 hours that they put in to learn how to do it super proper and efficient. And so I think that's something that people lose sight of.
That's a brilliant point.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think there's kind of like the knowledge and experience, and then there's also the kind of the production capabilities. Like Jason, you were talking about some of that machinery and things, and you know, we're always trying to find ways that we can you know, do things better and make, you know, better quality and, you know, more efficient and things like that. So it's like people are getting a better product, but that means, you know, for example, like the mothership, when it opened 2015, it's not just the same like process and same machinery and all these things that like just sit there stagnant and it's just push the button and do it again. You know, there's an investment, you know, there's the knowledge side of it. There's also the investment in like improving
maintenance,
your, you know, your
repairing,
maintenance.
A lot of work.
Yeah, and the sheer cost of, I swear every machine that we looked at was like $3 million. That's a $3 million machine. That's a $2 million machine. That's a $5 million. You're like, holy shit.
And how long does one of those machines last? Right?
Yeah.
Well, or if you just want to, if you want to expand technology and make better quality products, like you have to continually invest in your factory. And if you're not doing that, then your product is going to fall behind. And as well, like consumables like sanding belts, like the stones for stone grinding, all of those things cost so much money because if you buy the shitty quality version, you're going to get a bad base finish. So you have to buy the expensive stuff, and so it's all built into the product. And like at the end of the day, yeah, we have to make money as a company, but we want to make the best quality product, and that's why they got to be expensive, you know?